This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by the Take Control ebook series. The answers you need now from leading experts. Get them all at takecontrolbooks.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, the two gentlemen I have with me today, you recognize because they've been on here plenty of times before promoting their prior events. This time we're looking to their next event, the SuperMeet in London this time. Mr. Dan Berube and Mr. Michael Horton. Gentlemen, it's great to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
Hello, Chuck. It's great to be here as usual. Didn't we just talk to you a month ago?
We actually talked in person. What a concept.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was great seeing you.
Yeah,
that was my favorite thing, seeing you at the SuperMeet and doing the videos. And those videos are good, actually.
Well, thank you. It's some of the lighting in the area was a little challenging, but the SuperMeet was a blast. NAB was a blast, as I've said on so many editions of the show. But this was the granddaddy of the SuperMeets, and I'm so glad I finally got there because it was just amazing.
Yeah, well, this was the first time you've ever attended a NAB, right? I mean,
yes.
No, it's not the first time you attended a SuperMeet, but it's the first time you attended NAB. And I saw you on the show floor a couple of times, and I was hoping you were having a good time, and you looked like you had a good time. And then, of course, I saw all the videos that you did and you posted, which were just brilliant. At least I got to see a lot of things that I didn't get to see, thanks to you. So
I didn't see any from the lingerie show, though. I
was hoping you'd get in there and take a few little short videos, but you didn't, Chuck.
Those are on a different site, guys.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, we don't talk about that here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something we always look forward to every year at the Las Vegas SuperMeet.
Yeah, and we should be very clear here that the SuperMeet in Vegas was at the Rio Hotel, and somehow, according to these two guys, it's just coincidence. I'm not so sure. It's the very same time in the very same section of the hotel where the International Lingerie Show is. And
yes, and it's with all those billboards going down the aisle to the SuperMeet, and it's a lot of eye candy for a lot of men who attend the SuperMeet.
Yes.
It was the first lingerie show that I actually bought something.
Did you really?
I ended up ordering it off Amazon.
Should we ask?
Let's just say it was the solution for men.
Oh, that thing. Oh, yeah. I think we actually posted a picture of you next to the sign.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go look for that.
It's up on our Facebook page somewhere. The SuperMeet Network Facebook page.
Oh man.
We just did the Boston 48-Hour Film Festival, Mike, and I gave out one of those to every crew member.
Oh, awesome.
I think we started out by saying, yeah, we're going to behave this time, Chuck. Yeah, right.
Well, we're trying to.
No chance whatsoever. No, the SuperMeet in Vegas, it's interesting. Every SuperMeet I've been to has a different personality, a different feel, and they've all been good. And I'd be hard pressed to say which one I've enjoyed more. Although this one definitely was bigger in every sense than everything I've been to up to this point. Is that because it's Vegas and NAB?
Primarily, it is the flagship of all of our SuperMeets because so many people attend Las Vegas to the NAB show, and it's been there probably longer than just about any other SuperMeet other than San Francisco. So it's become this sort of staple, this thing that you really, really want to go to, and consequently, we get a lot of people.
I can honestly say that both. Speaking for Mike and I think that was one of the most exciting ones yet in Vegas because we had just top-notch AV crew there. We had the best in Vegas that night. We're at the Rio doing the show for us. We had a spectacular screen, and it just felt good to be there. It was flawless. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really nice to get back to the types of SuperMeets that we had done before in Vegas, and of course we've talked about this before. The one we did last year at the Tropicana was just a train wreck, primarily due to the Tropicana's AV team, and then to get back to working again with the people that we worked with before and the experts and these really nice people, and we had such a good cast on stage. It was a flawless show, and it went great, and people had a good time, which is, as we've said before, that's really what we we hope for, is that people will just have a great time.
And you can definitely you definitely sensed how excited the speakers were, because it's again when you have a live event and everything's going well, it's just like a magic on the stage, and from one speaker to the next, everything just went smoothly for them, and they had a great time on stage. And that was the best part for me.
It was. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it was really nice to get back to those fun kind of super meets, and it was. We were on a high after that thing, and now we're working really hard for the London Super Meet to achieve the same thing.
Well, one thing we've talked about so often with these is that it doesn't matter what level you're at as in your video production knowledge, you're going to learn something, and I walked out of there just with that reinforced once again. Sure, there were things that were over my head, but I took away so much stuff, and hopefully some of the viewers have been able to see some changes in what I've been doing as I've implemented some of that knowledge. And I still have sheafs of notes and videos of my own that I took for my own reference that I want to work on. But you leave with knowledge. Probably as important as that, you leave with so much enthusiasm for what you can do with these tools, and they make you want to go and play with them and work with them and create.
Yeah, I mean, no one can keep up with all this technology, which is why we rely on people like us, and we rely on people like you to impart that wisdom or those things that you learn. And when you put up those videos talking to those manufacturers and those artists who are doing this stuff, and you put it up for everybody to see for free, we learn from that. And just as you learn from that. So, and there's just a ton of stuff to learn. And, thank goodness for people like you and others who do these sorts of things, because we can't, and you can't, and nobody can keep up with all this stuff.
Right. I mean, we videotape the Super Meet and we eventually get it up, but it's just great to see the next day, like someone already posting a video of one of the speakers or people that were exhibiting there at the show, and to see their reactions, and it just keeps the whole experience going, and it certainly adds to the rest of NAB. The experience there, it keeps people pepped up and whatnot. I love it.
As a matter of fact, Rick Young, who had taped the Las Vegas Super Meet, has put up what was it, three videos now, Dan? I think the one with Scott Ross and Scott Squires, which is brilliant, by the way. Which is the state of the VFX industry, the past, present, and future, and it's a brilliant talk and presentation. And then he's also got Alexis Van Herkman on Resolve 10, which is the DaVinci coloring system. And also, what else?
I thought Al Mooney?
I think we haven't put that up yet because Adobe's already put that up. They taped it themselves. I know there's a missing one, but the Autodesk. Autodesk.
Oh yeah, Autodesk, correct. I was just going to say we're missing it, Chuck, because we're old. We forget things very easily.
I can't remember anything.
Yeah, so we have Avid and Red Giant and Adobe left.
They're waiting in the in the rings, and they should be up fairly shortly. So even if you miss the Super Meet, you can watch these presentations. But it's the whole idea, as you know, Chuck, is to get out of your house and get into these meet and greet situations and shake hands and talk to one another and solve each other's problems and learn from one another. And it is a networking event first and foremost.
Now that we're past NAB and Vegas in April, now we're going to Europe. And that's exciting just as well, before we come back and hopefully end up back in Boston.
Yeah, well, before we go to London, or talk about London, I want to just say both thank you and blame you two both at the same time for getting me to NAB, because it was our conversation that kind of kicked me in the pants and said, okay, I've wanted to go. This sounds like a pretty good one that the Super Meet they're going to put on, so it gives me 2 reasons to go. And now I'm afraid I may be addicted. It may be an annual thing, because I had a ball and I came away with so much.
I think we should do more together next year. Maybe you'll do more videos and we'll promote it and do all that. And I think.
Oh yeah, I mean we've been promoting it as soon as you put the videos up. We Twitter and Facebook it, and it's great for us, and it's also great for the people who could not be there. And because you were talking to people I didn't even know were at NAB, so so it was really
and
cool.
You give it a fresh perspective too, because there's a lot of people out there doing it.
Yeah, you don't ask the major geeky questions that I wouldn't even understand the question. And so
And
thank
quite
you.
honestly, the questions that you're asking are the type of questions that are, in large part, I think, coming from a lot of the people that go to NAB that
Right.
maybe NAB is not currently focused on, but maybe starting to get the idea that they need to focus on these people in order for an NAB to keep thriving,
Well,
if
Dan,
you will.
Dan, it's interesting you say that because I went with a certain amount of bias. It's like National Association of Broadcasters. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is for ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and maybe I'll find a few people to talk about. And I found just the opposite. Sure, there were the news trucks there and the satellites and all the heavy duty stuff, but I found what I consider to be a surprising amount of stuff that could be used at not a consumer level, that's not right, but at a creative professional level who's trying to do something in a small shop, or like I am as a solo act. There was an amazing amount of stuff there for that, and those were the people I was really trying to talk to.
Yeah, well, Dan's been at NAB a lot longer than I have, but back in the early days, that's what it was. It was satellite trucks and all this expensive stuff that nobody could afford. And then it slowly evolved into what you see now.
Well, wait a minute, Mike. Aren't you older than I am?
Yeah, well, I only started going to NAB in the year 2000. And
I've been there before.
I didn't understand. I still don't understand half the stuff that's there. And
I was there. Yeah, I was there when Apple wasn't there, when there was no Final Cut, before Final Cut, when Media 100 was the tool amongst our community, and Avid. So I've seen a lot happen there, and it's definitely changed. It's evolved. The people that run the show have really listened to the people that want to attend the show, and are giving them what they want. I mean, it's certainly not CES, but it's there's still a lot of stuff there that trickles down to CES. So it's just sort of that level up, and obviously you learned a lot, Chuck, and we still learn a lot, and hopefully we will see you again there next year. Did you time yourself walking from the front of South Hall to the end of South Hall?
No, I was too busy.
It takes like a half an hour.
Yeah, I was too busy stopping and seeing things.
Yeah.
But it's we know that changing show names and focuses is really tough. We watched that with Macworld try to make that transition. So I doubt that NAB will ever be rebranded or renamed. But
no.
I would say to anyone who's thinking about it, who's into video or wants to get into video, don't be put off by that concept, because that's really not what it is about. There's so much there for you. And that includes the SuperMeet. In a big way, that includes the SuperMeet.
Absolutely. And any of the other communal events that happen there, like Media Motion Ball. I mean, the SuperMeet's where it's at, obviously. But, NAB is not going to change. In fact, you can say, when someone asks you what NAB is all about, you can just say it's the greatest show on earth. At least for us, it happens in our community, because it really is. I mean, no one can top what they do right now. And
it's pretty big. I mean, we do the Amsterdam SuperMeet, and that's IBC, which is sort of the European equivalent, but it's still, I guess you could call it a smaller version of it. But it's not like NAB.
No, I think it's more relaxed, laid back. It's a different.
Yeah, actually, it is.
and when you come with us, Chuck, to Amsterdam for the SuperMeet, you'll see.
Yeah, you'll be there, Chuck, right?
Here we go. Well, before we do Amsterdam, let's talk about London, because that's our next stop.
Absolutely.
So, I always ask these questions. Obviously, they're going to be, the SuperMeet folks, viewers to the show have seen you all now talk about it. What kind of programs are you having this time? What kind of structure do you have? And are we too early to talk about some of that stuff yet?
No, we actually...
some of it is a little early, but...
Yeah, but the structure is very similar to what we always do. I mean, it is, like we say, first and foremost, a networking event where we give people a chance to hang out with each other around a bunch of software and hardware developers, and eat some food and drink some drink, and meet and greet one another and all that. And that's the real important part of the whole show. And then, of course, we have the stage presentations, and then they come back in and then meet and greet and eat and drink and have fun, and then of course we have some more stage presentations, and right after that we have the world famous raffle where everybody goes crazy, and so the structure remains the same.
What's different about the structure, though, is we are having it on a Friday this time, and we're partnered, if you will, with American Cinema Editors, where we're sort of cross-promoting each other. On Friday night is the SuperMeet, and then on Saturday during the day is Edit Fest London, which is the first Edit Fest in London this year. And so I think it's very like-minded for us to hold our events together. It certainly makes the attention and getting people ears on the radars pointing towards us. We had we in fact we almost shared the main speaker from both, but we'll certainly have Ann Coates. We'll certainly have her at a future SuperMeet, possibly even Amsterdam.
Yeah, Ann Coates, of course, is the editor of Lawrence of Arabia, among many other. She's legendary in this industry. However, we can say this: we just booked one of cinema's greatest film editors. Certainly, legendary is not an overused word in this respect. But Tom Rolfe, and he's edited such movies as Taxi Driver, The Right Stuff, Horse Whisperer, War Games. He's an Oscar winner for The Right Stuff. He's edited Heaven's Gate, for goodness sakes. I mean, he's one of the
French Connection 2.
French Connection 2.
He did both Taxi Driver and French Connection 2 back to back.
Yeah, talk about a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
So
he certainly has won some Academy Awards for, or been involved with movies winning Academy Awards. One of my favorite ones, Jacob's Ladder, he did as well.
Yeah, directed by the great Adrian Lyne. Did 9.5 weeks for him. I mean, this guy is been around forever. He's living in London now. He is an American, but he is living in London, and he has agreed to be our featured speaker. So we're just, beyond the moon excited, because this is a rare opportunity for a lot of young filmmakers to get up close and personal with this guy and to learn something about what he's learned in the editing room over the years. And there'll be plenty of time for questions. In fact, we're even thinking of just opening up to the audience and just let them do one-on-one and just do questions and answers, which will make it much more engaging for the crowd to be with this great in the film editing world. And then, of course, there'll be the other user-driven presentations by some of our sponsors, and like Black Magic Design. They're going to, of course, show off the new version of Resolve, as well as, hopefully, and I think they will, Dan, the cameras that they've just come out with, those 4K camera that they just announced, and the pocket camera. So we'll see.
And they always are one of the big staples of the raffle. So stay tuned to that.
Yeah,
that's exciting. But I'm just as happy to see what Adobe's going to talk about now that they get the Creative Cloud going, and Red Giant's just come out with Bulletproof, which is a
they're going to be there too. So
on-set management tool and prep for edit, with your digital footage. We're also, if you look at the SuperMeet site, you see on the top under Platinum Sponsors, it says coming soon. So we have one other company that we're in talks with that hopefully we can get them to enter into the our little big top, if you will, our show.
It'll be a surprise, and hopefully we can nail them down here this week, or shortly anyway. But it's going to be a good show, and London's really fun, and there's a real great creative community there, and love the people, and it's just that we skipped it last year, but this will be our third London SuperMeet, and believe it or not. This is the really weird thing, is that it's much cheaper to do a SuperMeet in London than it is in Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, London and Amsterdam are probably...
What's up with that? Even with the dollar-pound thing. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what the deal is there. And
a close second to Vegas is San Francisco. Ooh, boy.
Yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah.
So we'll, we're going to have plenty of food, put it that way. So, because we'll be able to afford it.
A couple of things there you mentioned that I've wondered about. First of all, the sponsors that you all get, it's interesting to watch, not just the big guys. I mean, that's kind of an obvious, but you get such an interesting mix of sponsors throughout the video production software and hardware community coming in and helping you put these things on. And I think that, it's sometimes the event is only as good as the sponsors that help bring it about. And I think that's really a tribute to what you guys do. You've built that credibility. They know that you're going to put on not only a good show, you're going to bring in a good crowd, but you also are going to take that time and that effort to help promote what they do for the filmmakers.
Yeah, more than anything else, Dan and I are always talking about how can we get this company or this small developer or this person to appear, because these people, even the ones who have never heard of the SuperMeet, we would love them to be there because we know what they're doing is valuable to the community. And sometimes we need to convince them that they need to get out there and start marketing their stuff and show off this stuff. And even though they intellectually know it, some of these creative guys are just so focused on what they're doing, they forget to market their product.
A lot of these, our history with the SuperMeets has been where we've actually really helped a lot of small companies to grow actually through the years with the SuperMeets. Noise Industries is an example of that. And then in terms of the sponsors and answering your question, we consider the sponsor area with all the sponsors corral and show off their wares as being just as important as the SuperMeet stage. And so the sponsors that we have work best when they really, as Mike says, are able to get off their focus and really focus on what they can do to having a message at the SuperMeet. And so, I mean, I think that what we're doing now is getting these people. Some of our charter members are actually, quite frankly, these are tough times, Chuck, and some of the sponsors that we usually have and typically expect to have are waiting to see what the future is of this year and then coming back with us. So, but the ones that are with us really enjoy it, and they know that their 6-foot table space is their stage, and you'll see. When you come to a SuperMeet and you've been there, you've seen how it is. People, 10, 20 people deep around the table. Someone's got the stage and they're sharing something with those people in that small, cubicle or space area. It's great, and you see all that. We'll have the London SuperMeet actually is one of the smaller SuperMeets that we have in terms of vendors. I think we'll have like 20 vendors there, but. In Vegas we've had 35, close to 40 often, and it's definitely an operation when we do these events. Mike had mentioned Rick Young before. He's actually documented us in the past, especially at NEB when we'd actually go through these times and whatnot. And that's actually we should try to get that back up online, Mike, because those are some funny videos that we had.
Those are old.
Yeah, but it shows. I mean, it shows where we've grown and where we're going too. Because we talk about going to Europe, Chuck, but we're also thinking about we definitely have going to Asia on our wings. We'd like to maybe go to Germany, and that will happen. Just like we said, London will happen, and going to Amsterdam will happen. We always find a way to do these things. Mike and I aren't. We're not your typical big show organizer. We're just two passionate people that somehow always manage to find a way to pull these things together in the right cast and crew for each visit, each city. So that's what keeps me going, and Mike, I love working with you. That's what keeps me going. So, we do this. We've had 5 of these shows in a year, and I think it's a lot to handle for people like us. But we are passionate about it, and we definitely make them happen. We're excited because after London, we've got Amsterdam, which I think is both Michael and I's our favorite SuperMeet of the year.
Yeah, it's because it's just a beautiful place to visit, and it's great people, and it's a great venue, and it's a lot of fun. You don't want to do these things if they're not. Always the prep is not a lot of fun, but once you get to the actual show, it's fun. It's just meeting those people that you haven't seen for a while, and meeting all those new people that you get the opportunity to, and that's what makes these things really worthwhile. Just to meet the new people and see what they're doing, and talk to them, and share ideas and problems and all sorts of things like that. And over the years, we've just met so many incredibly creative people, and the SuperMeet's really responsible for that.
The Take Control ebook series is bringing you this edition of MacVoices. Two of the latest additions to the series include Joe Kissel's Take Control of Your Passwords and Tonya Angst's Take Control of Your iPad, 2nd edition. Joe helps you with your safety and security online and off. He talks about what does and does not work as a password strategy, evaluates password management software, and much more in Take Control of Your Passwords. Tanya's Take Control of Your iPad, 2nd edition, updates her guide to Apple's tablet to include iOS 6 information, walks you through the obvious and not so obvious parts of the iPad's interface, helps you appreciate all of the apps that Apple provides with the iPad, and much more. Find both of these books and a whole lot more at TakeControlBooks.com. The answers you need now from leading experts. Take Control Books.
So basically, we've used June as the month where we go to, it's kind of like our swing month. We started going to London, then we went to Boston. We had the first Boston SuperMeet back in 2010. Then we went back to London, and then we moved Boston to September, to October and then November. But we actually might be, after we come back from Amsterdam, we may go to Boston. We'd like to, but we might also use that time of the year to bring it home in another city like Atlanta. So we're thinking about what our options are, and we certainly have the crowd in both cities. Me coming from Boston, I certainly would love to make it happen. But I think, it's all about really answering the needs of the community and looking at what's happening in the industry. And we haven't really done anything in that part of the country yet.
Yeah.
We've gone to South by Southwest too, which I think quite definitely will be there next year.
I think we ought to go to Pittsburgh.
I think we should go to Pittsburgh.
Or Philadelphia. Which city do you live near, Chuck?
I'm a little closer to Philadelphia.
Okay, we'll go there.
But okay,
We'll go there.
Well, yeah, but or you guys haven't done Washington D.C., have you?
No, we haven't. We almost did one year.
But
Yeah.
it just did the timing. The stars weren't aligned, if you will.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You could take this show so many different places and have a great audience. There's so many creative communities, and what you've taught me over the years that we've been talking and over these events is that even though places you don't think of having creative communities are just bustling with all kind of stuff that's sort of under the surface, it just doesn't always get publicized.
No, the problem with especially with computers, and it's even what we're doing right now. We're having a virtual a talk with each other. Dan is in Boston. I'm in Los Angeles. You're somewhere in some weird state that nobody's ever heard of. But it's getting people out of that house to these events, and that's becoming harder and harder as more people get more comfortable staying home and watching live events on their computer, and that becomes a problem. So no matter what city you go to, that is always a problem. But once people actually do force themselves out to go to these types of events, then of course they never regret it, because they'll learn so much more in that face-to-face kind of communication than you can in that virtual communication, which we're all getting way too used to.
I just think it's you're right, Mike. I mean, you don't have to go to NAB. I mean,
No.
quite honestly, if it wasn't for the community and the people there that you meet, you would. I doubt.
Yeah, you'd learn more.
I
just
wouldn't go.
Sitting at home,
Sitting here the next day, seeing
reading all
everything
the
on
PR.
video or the. But
You know what? I got to argue with that, because
Well,
that's what I used to think, and until I went to NAB, I can almost understand that logic for CES just because of the size of it and the diversity, because there's just so much in so many areas. But NAB really, I felt I learned a lot of things I would not if I had stayed at home and just read press releases and watched videos.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to come around to that and just go back.
Good,
to what Mike was saying.
Prove me wrong, because I love that.
Well, I think that it's true for a lot of people, and the money that you spend, that if it wasn't for the community, you wouldn't go and you just stay and see what's on the net and all that. But there's always going to be that big top, that having to get out and be somewhere. It's the same thing happening in Hollywood, where people they're trying. I just paid $17.50 to go see Star Trek Into Darkness in 3D. Now, it was a fantastic, probably the best theater experience I've seen yet. But, I could have stayed home and watched it on Vudu or something. And then a lot of people are doing that, but you've got to get out and you've got to be in that what they call the big top.
Yeah, but you know what, Dan? I too saw it in the Star Trek Into Darkness in a theater. And I think what is happening is the theater owners have sort of figured it out. I think the event producers are figuring it out too, that they have to do something. They have to create an experience that I can't create in my living room.
Exactly.
That will pull me out. And that doesn't mean just better popcorn either. It means better sound, better audio, frankly, some better crowd control at times. We could have used some phasers on stun in a couple places. But
that's why you never go on a Friday or Saturday night. You go to a Monday matinee.
Exactly. But that, I think, is what struck me about NAB this year and about Macworld earlier in the year, that they're getting away from just the formulas. They're trying new things that are causing interaction, but they're causing you to get stuff that you can't get online or by sitting at home. I love to come to the events and try to take some of it home with me and share it with people that can't get there, and maybe encourage them to get there next year, because what you deliver and what I deliver is just a very small percentage of the entire experience.
Yeah.
Did you ever see yourself doing like a small like a booth at NAB, or would you feel like roving around is a better thing for you? And then, because some of the people are basing themselves out of booths where they then go and they interview and then they'll edit back in that booth or they'll go, whatnot. But I'm just curious.
Well, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
that would be kind of neat, actually.
There would be some very distinct advantages. You would definitely have a more controlled environment for lighting, for sound and all. But I think there's still something about stopping by someone's booth, catching them, even though the lighting may be wrong, even though the audio is bad or somebody's blaring, some PA system just off camera.
Right.
That's the event experience. That's what's going to happen if you go and you stop by their booth. I can do a much more controlled interview here with them and probably a little more in depth. But when you do it there live, you're at least trying to gather some of the experience. And I'm not trying to do the big top thing either, because I want to deliver good information. But at a trade show, nobody has time for a 20 or 30 minute interview. So it's
unless you get them scheduled in the books.
And even then, so it's stop by. If you can give me 7 to 10 minutes of the highlights, answer a couple questions. What's the website? And then, let the listeners and viewers go and say, this is for me, or I really like that, and I want to go and learn more. And I get plenty of emails that say, hey, you should really get more in depth with this particular guest because the product is so good or it's so interesting.
Leave them wanting more, is what I say.
Yep.
And that's...
And that's what we hopefully. That's hopefully what we do, and leave them wanting more. Because, and if they do, then we're back next year. Yeah. And if they don't, then we're not.
Well, the Scott Ross presentation at the Vegas, that went for at least
that went a lot longer than we actually allocated. But it's worth every minute of watching it.
It's very temple-like. It was just amazing, and just to see at the end everyone stand up and applaud, and I think it was something that they like seeing, both of them on the stage, to see that people were actually listening to them, because it sounds, the state of the VFX industry kind of sounds almost like a lofty presentation, but it really affects all of us, right down to the three of us right here. We know what we want to see and how much do we want to pay for it, and then how much are they going to pay people to make this content that we want to see?
It's all about the changing industry and getting paid for it, and which is a big issue. And these guys covered it really, really well. So it was one of the highlights of Super Meets for me and for a lot of people. And again, that's kind of what we try to do: try to bring you that cutting, bleeding edge stuff, not just tools, but craft and solutions.
The other thing I wanted to touch on, I mentioned the sponsors, but the other thing that I'd love to be a fly on the wall is to listen to the conversations you have with some of these people that you get as the featured speakers. I mean, that's the other thing about the Super Meets. You've had some amazing people. I've only been to a few, but every time I walk away and think, what an amazing super set of people that I come away interested in. Even if I wasn't interested going in, it wasn't like I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs waiting for the next one. It's like I'm riveted to everything these people are saying. I don't even work in the industry in the formal sense, and yet it's fascinating. And I think, okay, they can't possibly surpass that. You know, that's the pinnacle. Everything here is going to level off and maybe go downhill. And the next one just gets better. I mean, that's just amazing to me that you are able to draw these people. They have to be recognizing what an important event this is, not just for them, but also to support the community and to help get this wisdom out there.
Yeah, well, it's due in no small part to the sponsors that we have, and like Black Magic Design, for instance, they agree with us when we say, please don't put a marketing guy up there, put a user, and this has been our mantra from the beginning. And some companies listen, and some companies don't. Most companies do, and they try very hard. Actually, it isn't very hard because a lot of these guys want to be up on the Super Meet stage because they know it's a fun event and a good event and a powerful event, and so we're really lucky to have some of the sponsors that we do work really hard to put on to bring out the best user to give the presentation, and so kudos to them.
Mike, do you remember Dato? I think he was at the Amsterdam Super Meet last year.
Yeah, the lighting guy. Yeah.
No. The colorist for Black Magic.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I saw him in New York 2 days ago.
Oh, cool.
And it was great. It was one of those things, our experience with him was in London, at Amsterdam. And here he is. I bumped into him at an event in New York, and we knew who each other was, and we started talking about the whole experience, and I thought it was very interesting, to do those things, and it's exciting to me, and I think that, often, on one level, it could be like, people who happen to walk by a film set on the street, and they just gander and watch, and maybe that is like what it is for some of the people at the Super Meets because they're not directly involved in it, but there's entertaining value with the content that's being presented. And then there's people that are finding ways to, like you, Chuck and Mike and me, finding ways to use what they talk about in our daily lives to tell stories. So it definitely, I think it's a changing world. It will be interesting to see how life is for us digitally in 2014 and how we create.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I want to know what's happening after. I want to know what Apple's going to release at WWDC.
We only have a couple weeks to wait.
Yeah.
And because we couldn't get a ticket.
Yeah, well, there's that little detail.
Yeah.
I can't stress it enough. Anybody that comes to one of your events that has any interest in video production at any level, and if they don't walk away with at least 4 or 5 things they can use, and I mean really use, I don't mean just, pie in the sky, oh, what a great idea. I mean really use. They're not paying attention. They're missing the whole point.
I agree, and it takes some, too. And also, it takes some effort on the part of the person who is attending too, to have the courage to go up to somebody and say, "Hi, my name is," because that phrase can turn into something really special at the end of the night. Because as we always say, you never know who you're going to meet that might change your life, but you got to meet them.
Yeah, and I didn't have anybody that rejected me or swatted, well, maybe up at the lingerie show, but never mind. That was another story.
Yeah, that's on a different website.
Yeah.
I've got the URL though.
Yeah, really? Pass it on.
Well, guys, let's not go there.
Okay.
Let's wrap up with some of the hard information on the London SuperMeet. When, where, how much, the whole bit.
Okay, well, all the information's on supermeet.com, but it's going to be at the Kensington Conference Center, which is right in the heart of Kensington, and it just also happens to be where the mayor's office is. It's like a government facility, and it's a really cool facility, and we've been there a couple of times before, and it's going to be on Friday, June 28th, and the doors open at about 5 p.m., or as they say, 1700 in England. And the SuperMeet stage presentation started at 1900 and go on until we drop. It's like until it's just all over, and until everybody just starts, I got to go home. Right. And
stop.
Yeah, exactly. Stop.
But that still reminds me of when Michael Jackson passed away, though.
Oh my God!
That happened the first London SuperMeet.
That was the first London SuperMeet, and that happened during the raffle.
Right.
Oh.
And some guy comes up and he tells us that Michael Jackson has just died. I thought it was a bit of a joke, and then I said, "Oh, he just says Michael Jackson just died." And there's silence for about 5 seconds, and then somebody yells out, "Go on with the raffle!"
Get on the raffle.
Let's keep our priorities straight. That's good.
But early bird tickets are still on sale for the SuperMeet through May 29th or 29th of May. And after that, the prices will go up to what you would normally pay closer to being at the door. So right now it's $10.
That's £10. Yeah,
£10, I should say, for early bird tickets and for students with a valid ID. And then after that, it's going to go up to after the early bird will go up to £15. It'll still be £10 for students, and then £20 at the door. So it's always, we like to say, commit early, show your support, and at the same time, it helps us to keep things moving for the event itself.
Yeah, it tells us how much food we can actually order and afford. So the more people commit early, the more we know. So anybody listening in the UK right now, buy your tickets early, because this is going to be a really good show. It is always a good show, but this one's going to be very special.
Yeah, and I won't make this one, unfortunately, I know, but I'm going to say the same thing. Forget support. That's not the point. The point is this is going to be a great show. You will walk away with some amazing information and maybe some prizes.
Absolutely.
If you know how to work Mike and, schmoozing a little bit.
Do you know what the really cool thing at the Vegas SuperMeet, Scott Squires, one of our presenters, he won a raffle prize.
Yeah,
that was cool.
That was cool.
He gets up in the front row and says, here's the ticket.
It was pretty cool.
And we love the London crowd. I mean, they're great people. They get the SuperMeet. They understand what it's all about. So it's always a great evening. It's a lot of mingling, partying, and then networking, and then listening, and then sharing.
Yeah, and of course, the Edit Fest is the next day, and that'll be over in Dolby in Soho, and they got a panel of the greatest editors in Europe are going to be there. So that's something to look at. And the EditFest link is right there on the SuperMeet website.
Sure.
Great. Gentlemen, it's always good. Thank you for talking me into going to NAB and the Vegas SuperMeet. I hope we've talked a few people into going to the London SuperMeet and then eventually the Amsterdam SuperMeet and wherever else you two end up next with this event, because it's really, truly a terrific, beneficial event.
Yeah, well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and it's always a pleasure to have you, and I hope we'll see you before Las Vegas next year, but if not, we'll just make a special trip to where you live, which is someplace in Pennsylvania, I forget.
Well, there you go, yeah, you got it. One of those weird states, yeah, as I recall.
Yeah, it's one of those weird states, yeah.
So we don't, next year we probably will most likely see you at San Francisco.
Right.
That is in a different month now.
Yeah.
That's right. They moved it to what, March or something like that?
Macworld is in March, yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys have to
we'll see you before.
do some adjustments. Yeah.
Come visit you.
Yeah, okay. I've got room.
All right.
Folks, Dan Berube, Mike Horton, they are the purveyors of the SuperMeet, this time in London. Please check it out. I will have links in the show notes to everything they do. When they're not producing the SuperMeet, I'll have links to the SuperMeet. I'll have links to everything I can think of. Until the next time, MacVoices is the talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and for more Apple, Mac, and tech-related shows, including Mac Voices, Mac Notables, the Mac Jury, and the Mac Voices Briefing. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.